I'm here to say as best I can, shout it from the rooftops. This is really truly an optimal way to eat. Anxiety, depression, thyroid issues, lots of IBS and Crohn's and celiac. And then as I was in this group and hearing more and more of this one resolved this, and this one got rid of that, and this one's off all their meds. And over, it was just people gradually healing.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad you're back to Growth Factor. I'm Amalya. You're looking at Dr. Lisa Wiedeman. The reason she's here today is to tell us her journey and her story. And I always say, I'm a hypnotherapist and nutritionist, and I'm just looking for the truth. So if you can tell us your story, Dr. Wiedeman, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, I am a long time sufferer of sugar and carb addiction and binge eating and eating disorders because my whole life I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't control eating. And it really it came about for so many years of trying to research this. I'm thinking, I'm a smart woman. What am I doing? Why am I eating in secret? Why am I doing these things? And why can't I stop? And it was such a long, horrible black hole I was in because I knew better. I know this stuff is toxic. Sugar is horrible. It's inflammatory. It causes so many diseases, metabolic disorder. Sugar feeds cancer cells. Why can't I stop? So it wasn't really until I was so fortunate. This was 14 years ago. I just kept seeking an answer, and I came upon Charles Washington's website, Zeroing In on Health. It was a small group of people who spun off of a low carb website. They actually got kicked off because they had started this whole thread of no carbs because they had done the Atkins induction phase and were so successful with it. They thought, why bother adding back in the vegetables? Because every time we do, we don't feel well. And so they were writing, and I happened upon it on the internet, and because this is way before Facebook and Instagram, and I was reading in there, and there was a couple women, because you could read each other's journals that you kept, and they were writing about how they resolved themselves of this sugar addiction. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's jump in here. But is this healthy? Oh my gosh, how could this possibly be healthy? I mean, I'm not going to be eating fruits and vegetables or grains or any of that. And I decided, well, I'm going to jump in and start it. And as I do it, I'm going to keep learning and researching. And they had all sorts of information up about Not by Bread Alone, these books, Vilmar Stephenson, Fat of the Land. There was like explorers from years ago, and how and why this is potentially our true ancestral optimal way to nourish ourselves. And as I kept reading and kept eating this way, I just said, wow, I've never felt better in my life. This is amazing. I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I wanted to let everybody know because I saw so many people around me with failing health, all sorts of different health issues, anxiety, depression, thyroid issues, lots of IBS and Crohn's and celiac. And then as I was in this group and hearing more and more of this one resolved this, and this one got rid of that, and this one's off all their meds. And over, it was just people gradually healing. And I thought, this is pretty magical. But nobody really wants to hear you talk about eating. Basically, it's meat, seafood, eggs, and dairy if you tolerate it. And that was it. That was pretty much just beef and lamb mainly. I'd have a little chicken here or there, but only if I kind of needed to. But it was really just an amazing, and I mean, I'd eat pork ribs and bacon and eggs and pretty much any meat, except I really quickly learned that ribeye, New York strip, ground beef was the mainstay. It was easy, it was delicious. You get hungry, and that's it. And then it was the old, well, you're going to get a heart attack. I mean, what are you doing? You can't eat all that red meat. Everybody knows it's all too much saturated fat. And just as I kept looking at more and more research, I said, no, actually, saturated fat is good. And then, there was Nina Teicholz's book, The Big Fat Lie. There was Gary Taub's book. There was, it was more and more information is now coming out. And then as more time has gone on, so I'm an optometric physician. I've been an eye doctor for 32 years. I feel like I'm in the position to say, you know what? I don't take my health lightly. I didn't do this on a whim. I really was very diligent about researching, and then more and more physicians came onto this. Dr. Sean Baker, he's an orthopedic surgeon. Dr. Anthony Chafee, he's a neurosurgeon. Dr. Kiltz, he's a reproductive endocrinologist. And then guess what? Lots of cardiologists too. There's Philip Ovadia, there's Nadir Ali. I mean, we could go on. And now you gotta really think twice before you're gonna negate the fact that there's cardiologists out there who I'm sure do not take their heart health lightly, are eating a carnivore diet. So I was like, all right, here we go. Now we're getting some momentum. And then this is why just really about 3 years ago, I jumped onto Instagram, because I would follow some of these other physicians that had just started this like 2 or 3 years ago. Meanwhile, at that point, I was like 12 years in, and I'd see negative comments go on to their, posts, and they'd be like, well, that's all well and good for now, but you can't possibly think that this is sustainable long-term or healthy long-term. And I was just like, yeah, here I am. I'm 12 years in, and boy, do I feel good. And I'm not shy about saying my age. I'm 58, and I've had 2 kids. I can do cartwheels in a bikini on the beach. I just never felt better. And so I have no anxiety, no depression, no thyroid issues. I sailed through menopause because I was already carnivore for 10 years, from 44 to 54. And then menopause kind of grabbed onto me, and I just sailed right through it. I have no issues whatsoever. And I just keep thinking that this can't possibly be the wrong way to nourish ourselves. Millions of years, humans were roaming the earth, killing the wildebeest, getting an animal, because that's the most nutrient dense way to feed yourself. And nobody's foraging for, potatoes and berries and rice. And they're very nutrient insufficient. They are not anything like meat and organs and fat. And so I thought, well, I guess I have no use for them, because heck, I've never felt better. So it's difficult in that here's what I've discovered through time, because I have coached people for now 12 years, and I do group coach, one-on-one coach. I have amazing groups that support each other, hold each other accountable for trying to get off of this poison. And the thing I realize about this whole way of eating is you really personally have to have your own, what I call, why that makes you cry. And I use that term. I believe I got it from Christy Code Red Nichols, is a woman in this. She's kind of in the keto space, but I just love that term, because it really totally described what I was experiencing as let's just call me a carnivore coach, that you're not going to come to this way of eating just on a whim. So I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. All right, meat, seafood, and eggs. Let's go. Nothing else. No chips, no ice cream, no cookies, No, nothing. Meat, seafood, and eggs. All right. Who's doing that? Right? I mean, our world revolves around food, social food, holiday food, workplace, home, everything is food, and everything is this toxic fake food. And even if you say, well, I eat healthy, people say, oh, I don't eat that stuff. Well, pretty much most people do. And you say, oh, do you use mayonnaise or salad dressing? Well, yeah. Well, what I say is you cannot eat anything that comes in a box, a bag, a bottle, or a jar. It's not good for you. You should eat just one ingredient things: beef, lamb, egg, bacon, right? It's so simple, but nothing else. People say, well, that's not possible. Sure as heck is. I've done it for 14 years. It's very simple. It's beautifully simple. It is, in my mind, because as I've researched more and more and realized that plants actually have a lot of toxins in them. There's, there's a lot. They're trying to protect themselves. That's their protection mechanism. Where animals have teeth and claws and the ability to run, the plants are trying to remain on Earth by using chemical warfare. And people don't think that. Why? Because we're brainwashed to think that you have to eat lots of grains and lots of fruits and lots of vegetables to be healthy. And it's the farthest from the truth. And if you really want to get healthy, people have a hard time understanding, well, what about fiber? You know what? Read the book Fiber Menace. It's an entire amazing book that will explain why you do not need a speck of fiber. And you're not supposed to be going to the bathroom a few times a day. Guess what? When you eat such a nutrient-dense way of nutrition, there isn't this undigestible waste called cellulose that has to go through your system. And what they are talking about is that not only is it not good for you, totally detrimental, and could be the cause of pollen.
I'd like to present to you the best trial that I could find. This was a case-controlled study. So in this study, 63 patients who presented with constipation were recruited, and high and low fibre diets were compared in these patients. And this also included a zero fibre diet that required the complete cessation of all vegetables, cereals, fruits, wholemeal breads, and rice. So this graph here represents the percentage of study participants before the study suffering from each of the symptoms listed on the right side. So you can see, before the study started, all of them had constipation and strain opening their bowels, and a number also experienced bloating, bleeding, and pain. And when the study participants, those who went on a high fibre diet, we can see that the proportion suffering symptoms actually increased, especially bloating. So then there was a reduced fibre arm. And what you can see here is that those on the reduced fibre diet actually demonstrated a modest reduction in symptoms. So the question is, what happened to those, the majority of those in the study, who had zero fibre in their diet? This is not a mistake. I didn't just forget to put something in the slide there. Now, not one patient on the zero fibre diet had any symptoms. That's quite astonishing, really. And these findings were highly statistically significant, highly. They weren't due to random chance. Now, just out of interest, every single person in the low zero fibre group ended up having one bowel action per day, every day. How did this compare to those in the high fibre group? One bowel action on average every 6.83 days. Still think that fibre is good for constipation?
Because people say, well, how are you going to have a healthy colon without fiber? Well, guess what? It can be kind of abrasive and be the cause of problems. Like, who's to say that you need fiber to be healthy when you don't need fiber at all? I go to the bathroom just fine. It's lower volume, lower frequency. We use so much of the food, of the meat, the seafood, and the egg. The elite eat meat. They want the masses to eat the cereal and the mush. That's a way of controlling the population, to make them submissive, to make them infertile, to make them docile, to effeminate men because they're eating soy and grains. The elite, and you kind of maybe can imagine who I'm talking about, they're not going to be eating soy and bugs, believe me, but they want us to. The seed oils are a huge culprit. Sugar and seed oils are really the two main culprits of ill health, both mental and physical. Chips and mayonnaise is full of it, salad dressing, pretty much everything has seed oil in it. And it is so toxic. About the 8-step chemical process that's done to make this sludge, and then it's put in all of the food. It is in the restaurants. They have a squirt bottle. They squirt it. You think you're ordering a nice, beautiful, healthy pan-seared salmon. Guess what? You got a bottle of canola or soybean oil. They squirt in the pan first. Why? Because you can heat it up really high heat so you can get a nice sear. They've gone through this chemical process to get the oil to be, to deodorize it, to get the odor and the cloudiness out of it. So it's just this clear, so it's not imparting a taste to the food. So the chefs like it for that reason. It is so toxic when I tell you it's got pretty much a 4-year half-life. So if you stop eating seed oils right now, this minute, you have no more restaurant food, no chips, no mayonnaise, no salad dressing, nothing with seed oils in it. You stop. 4 years from now, half of it will still be in your body. Okay. And after that, once that 4 years hits and you still have half in your body, another 4 years, and now another quarter of that is out. So basically in 8 years, you're still not rid of it all. And being that it's an oil, a fat, every single cell in our body has a lipid fat membrane. It absorbs into it. It's so toxic and so detrimental. And I try on any interview I do to really get that message out, because one of the things that's very near and dear to me is being an eye doctor is macular degeneration. And Dr. Chris Kenobi, he's an ophthalmologist that devoted 8 years of his life to researching and figuring out and determining what has changed in our food system that has increased the incidence of macular degeneration so far from what it used to be. 100 years ago, it was 1 in hundreds of thousands would have macular degeneration. And now, over the age of 75, it's 1 in 3 people. And over the age of 55, it's 1 in 11 people. And the thing that he has really correlated, and he is 100% positive on his information that he's putting out, is that it is these seed oils. Everybody just trusts that if it was so unhealthy, they wouldn't allow it in our food. I think that's what's happening. It's like, well, why would they be able to sell potato chips or, chicken wings at a restaurant deep fried in this stuff, or French fries, right? I mean, French fries used to be deep fried in beef tallow, which is actually really healthy. And then McDonald's, we want to go briefly into that topic. There was a gentleman who I believe had a heart attack, and this was a long time ago. I don't remember when McDonald's came about, but this was way back, because McDonald's used to use beef tallow to fry their French fries in. And he put on such a campaign to basically force McDonald's to switch to vegetable oil, because this gentleman was convinced that it was the beef fat that gave him his heart attack. So really interesting, but who knows, maybe it was the milkshakes and the buns that he was eating and, all this other stuff. And people don't think that. All they want to blame is what is the typical thing to blame, which is, the information that we're fed. But it's so important when I tell, if anybody out there is listening and wants to know the best way to quickly improve their health, you would eliminate all grains. So that's bread, crackers, chips, pretzels, grains, oatmeal. People think oatmeal's so healthy. Quinoa, out it goes. Grains are so unhealthy. Eliminate all grains. Eliminate all sugar. All sugar. It's toxic. It's addictive. It's inflammatory. It's disease provoking. It has to go. And then, so it's grains, sugar, seed oil, and then let's just say processed food. But you can pretty much, all these other things are pretty much what processed food is. But I pretty much, when I say processed food, I'm talking about what? Anything that comes in a box, a bag, a bottle, or a jar. Shouldn't buy it, and, does everybody have to be carnivore to be fully healthy? No, I don't. I think if somebody wants to include avocado and olives and maybe some fermented kimchi, those might be some tolerable kind of plant tolerable things. But that's as far as I would go. And I guess for me, just for how I feel and for how I've seen changing to a carnivore way of eating has so impacted so many people's lives so positively that I can't help but still shout it from the rooftops that this is really the golden ticket. And if you're willing, if you want to make a change, you want to make a change in your health, I say, if you have any diagnosis, you're on any medications, high blood pressure meds, metformin for type 2 diabetes, pretty much any medication, we should not be putting pills in our mouth, right? Our bodies are really meant to heal. They want to evolve as a living entity. We are driven to health and evolve to procreate and stay on Earth, right? So you have to look at it like, if we get bacteria, a virus, a cut, what happens? Our body heals it because, again, we're trying to, so you eliminate all the toxins. We're treating our bodies like a trash can when we eat all that other stuff. You eliminate all that. You just turn to putting in healthy meat, seafood, and eggs, and dairy if you tolerate it. Cheese is a whole nother subject because it has casomorphins and it can be addictive in itself. Although we'll just say, for the most part, I relied on cheese at the beginning to convert over to this whole carnivore thing because I could not wrap my brain around it. And plus cheese makes it so amazing to do so many recipes. So I don't know if anybody's listening and wants some of I've got some really, really good carnivore recipe videos on YouTube that really will help transition to this. And also for people with families and kids to make, I have this thing called cheeseburger pie and crustless quiche, and I have a seafood medley. I have a lot of really interesting ways to make carnivore delicious and creative and sustainable, really. So I know I went on a really, really long discussion about that. But I hope that really kind of at least gives everybody an idea of where I'm coming from and why. And, I'm not here to, be dogmatic or say, it's so interesting because people say, well, it might be fine for you, but it's not for everybody. I'm like, well, really? We're all human. Yeah, I actually do think it's for everybody. And then people say, well, I don't know. I read this book, the blood type diet, depending on your blood type. And I'm like, yeah, it's all BS. Man did not run around and get blood drawn and figure out what blood type he was and then said, oh, I can't eat meat because I'm AB positive or, whatever it is. I mean, come on, let's be reasonable and realistic about thinking about those things.
I appreciate you so much, Dr. Wiedeman. You basically answered almost all of my questions, so I don't have much left. But I will say the most obvious thing that I tell friends, clients, neighbors, whoever's willing to listen, is that about gluten, that there's celiac, so there's something in plants that can hurt people. It's harder for them to translate that into fruit, vegetables, even oatmeal. That's the hardest one when I talk to friends or clients about it. That's a really hard one for them to let go. But I want to ask you, first of all, before I get into a couple of myths, I want to ask you about how do people reach out to you? What's your YouTube channel, your website, your groups?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is Carnivore Doctor, all spelt out, one word. That's where you can find me on YouTube, or it's hard. Most people don't spell Wiedeman correctly, so it's hard to get to that. But Carnivore Doctor, and then I'm really pretty active on Instagram at Carnivore Doctor, same thing, spelt out. And then that posts, I guess, over to Facebook. I don't really do Facebook that much, but that's the best way to reach me. And I have a website, which I'll give you the link to. And then people, if you want to speak with me every week, be able to ask questions, be able to transition to this. I have an amazing mixed group of people where there's people in there who are 2 or 3 years into carnivore, people that are 2 or 3 months into carnivore, and people that are just thinking tomorrow they're going to start carnivore. And it's great because everybody is just in there talking. I keep the groups really small. I get to know you, and we just kind of really share all sorts of different podcasts and videos and recipes. And we have a private WhatsApp chat that goes on all 7 days in between the meetings, just to really support people. Because I got to tell you this, and I'll just go on to this little side tangent about this. You got to give it a good 4 to 6 weeks of maybe feeling a little off, because your body is going to switch over from burning carbs and sugars that it shouldn't be, and now becoming a fat burner, and hopefully getting into ketosis and all that. But the naysayers all want to attack what you're doing. And you know what? You just say, I don't give a crap what anybody thinks. Who cares? Why do you care what I'm eating? Evidently, you didn't care when I was eating donuts and cookies, right? But now all of a sudden you care because I'm eating steak and eggs, right? Like, what? How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. But it is very interesting that we have to feel like we feel like we're being attacked, and we feel like we need to defend ourselves. So it really has to come down to where you have to understand you don't owe anybody an explanation. You just keep going along doing it. And the better you feel, the better you'll look. And then maybe you'll get some curious people that'll go, huh, what are you doing? Wait, are you still doing that meat thing? And you go, yeah, and I've never felt better, and you just kind of keep going on like that. But yeah, the whole grains thing, I know it's so hard to comprehend, but the thing with this type of food is that it's a slow suicide. Most people are not getting an immediate penalty. Most people can eat oatmeal, but what's it doing to your microbiome? Is it causing leaky gut that gradually over the next 5 to 10 years of continuing to eat that's still messing up your microbiome, that now you're going to develop an issue? Well, you're probably not going to look back and blame it on the fact you started eating oatmeal when you're 10 and you loved it and you were convinced it was good for you and you kept eating it because, oh, it's heart healthy, right? You don't think that. But it is really important to understand that these things are, and just like you said, I mean, how could it be possible that there's a large portion of the population does not digest grains? And there's, more and more that we are learning really don't tolerate plants. And so how is it possible that somebody is so biologically different that they do amazingly well? And people say, well, I'm vegetarian, I feel great. And like, you know what? Let's do an osteoporosis test, and let's do there's studies that showing the depression rate of vegetarians is so high. There's clear evidence that more animals are killed plowing to clear a field to make soy and corn crops than there are in just a single cow that I would eat off for a whole year. I said, give it a 90-day trial. It's not easy because, everybody around you is eating the junk.
But before we go, I want to go over 2 myths. That is cholesterol. I mean, you got to lower your cholesterol. You got to take a statin, that myth. And the other, I want to talk about the bathroom. So can we get into cholesterol? Is it a good thing, bad thing? Should we take a statin?
So cholesterol, that's again, such a topic of incorrect information that we've been brainwashed with, because these statin companies want to continue making trillions of dollars trying to insist we all need to lower our LDL. Well, do you know that there's not a single study that shows a low LDL is actually, the studies show that a low LDL is a higher death rate. Like, let that sink in. A lower LDL, that these all statins are trying to lower your LDL. The studies show that it's a higher death rate. And it is totally incorrect information to think that you need to have low cholesterol. Our bodies make cholesterol every single day. Every single cell in our bodies needs cholesterol. This is not something to be demonized. Why is it demonized? Because the pharmaceutical industry that's making trillions of dollars has decided that you need to think that your cholesterol needs to be low. And they put out a huge marketing campaign, and everybody thinks, just like you're just saying right now, is that, you know, what's the deal with cholesterol? Everybody, you know, you can't have high cholesterol. It's going to cause heart disease. Nope. Nope, it's not.
Yeah, I worked for Merck Pharmaceuticals. So I would present the data to the doctors. I gave them the samples. I did programs, wonderful programs, and I was completely brainwashed about cholesterol. As a matter of fact, Mevacor was the first medication I promoted. And I said, you know, it came from mushrooms. So it really came from nature. That's what we were trained to say.
Right.
But it's incredible how people really can't hear it. What I tell people is study cholesterol. What is it for? It helps you with bile, testosterone, and estrogen.
Hormones. Yep, hormones.
It helps convert vitamin K1 to K2, and you need the sun, vitamin D, in order to manufacture the cholesterol and help it do what it needs to do. So why would you lower something natural? Where do we get this message from? We got
Exactly.
it from
And why are we lowering one component? There's triglycerides, HDL, LDL, total cholesterol. There's all these different components. Why are we just taking LDL and deciding that has, you know, why? It's because that's the one thing that they figured out chemically, pharmaceutically, how to manipulate it. So all of a sudden, that's the one that needs to get lowered, right? So, I mean, think about it. Why is there not a triglyceride lowering drug? It's just because they haven't found one yet.
And based on everything you said, it's the seed oils and sugar that's been damaging us, the carbs basically, and the manufactured products. And cholesterol got blamed so that pharma could sell us pills. And I was part of that.
Yes.
And the other thing is the bathroom. You know, most of my friends and family who eat a lot of fiber, they're very proud of themselves. They're either eating high fiber seeds or manufactured products like powders. And they're saying, you know, I go to the bathroom 1 to 3 times a day. And I tell them, well, you're just manufacturing fiber that needs to come out. Matter of fact, this is what I say, and let's see what you think. If you have a cup of broccoli, I usually tell people it's about, let's say, 3 to 6 grams of protein, and a steak would be, let's say, in the range of 60 grams of protein. That broccoli is going to, most of that amino acids, protein, all of those nutrients, a lot of it's coming out in the bathroom. So you're not even getting the full package versus a steak, which is almost 100% bioavailable. But I want to ask you a little bit about that and the bathroom, you know, people who have to wipe, because a lot of us carnivores now say we don't even have to wipe to get a little.
Yeah, it becomes the most simple, easy, non-event ever. Like, you know, and I say, well, maybe this is TMI, but it's very small, and it's, you know, it can even be every other day. It's not, it's a big myth, like, oh, you got to be regular, you got to poop every day. Who says? I poop when my body needs to poop, and it's based on, you know, just the amount of waste of what I'm eating. So yeah, if I were eating lots of roughage and, you know, veggies and salads and, you know, broccoli, cauliflower, all that stuff, I would poop more and bigger volume. But why is that good? Makes no sense.
Yeah, I do warn my clients, listen, it's different. If you become carnivore or mostly carnivore, not a lot's going on in the bathroom because your food is now bioavailable. If you're going to stay vegan or vegetarian and you're doing well with that, fine. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the bathroom because it's going to waste. You're eating food and it's going to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. I work one-on-one with a patient. I get to root cause of their eye disease, of their dry eye, of their blepharitis. I talk to them about their diet, because that is everything. It is, and people don't understand how impactful what we are eating is on our health. And I'm here to say, as best I can, shout it from the rooftops, this is really truly an optimal way to eat.
Well, the best reason to find Dr. Wiedeman and start this diet is I tell my clients, if you're doing great, if you have great eye health, teeth health, no aches and pains, your skin is great, your gut is great, then keep doing what you're doing. Maybe you're vegan, vegetarian. But if you want to do what Dr. Wiedeman's been doing for many, many years, she's an expert in this, then try it out and see if it reverses your inflammation. And one of the most important things I think you can do is when you find her, look in the comments and you'll see all these incredible stories of people that it's just changed their life. So thank you, Dr. Wiedeman. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Nope, that's it. Thanks so much for
Okay.
having me. It's been great. And people can reach out through, I have a contact section of that website that you'll post. And I'm really pretty good about trying to get to everybody as time efficiently as I can.
Well, thanks for helping us today. And thank you for all the people that you've helped.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.